Okay. Okay. All right. I think we're live. Hi, everybody. It's Bob Weathers here from your Vitality Project. And we have a returning esteemed guest, Nadja Lindt from Berlin. And really, really honored to have you back with the Nadja. Nadja is a musician par excellence. She is a DJ artist, and she can talk more about what she does, but she has the most positive energy imaginable, and it comes through her music. I listen to your music, if not every day, every week. And so we'll talk more about all of that. So welcome to you, Nadja. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It's so nice to be back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Our title for today is Healing Tunes for Tough Times with you, with Nadja. And I would just love to open it up anywhere you'd like to go with this. During a time where there's been it's been nearly a year now of the worldwide pandemic, and people are dealing with stress beyond anything imaginable on a global level, and resources are probably at a premium. I'd love to hear what you have to say from your own experience and from those with whom you interact every day about how it is that music, your music, meditation, anything, how this can serve as a resource during challenging times like this moving forward. So Nadja, it's wide open, and you and I can dialogue together just in free form.
Okay. Yeah. For me personally, it has always been very important to have my meditation practice. So I've been listening to meditation music for a decade or even longer, and it really saved my life in difficult times, and especially times like this, which are particularly special. And difficult. It's very, very important for me to have my routine and to center myself and calm down my nervous system and get me into a good mood, especially into sleep if possible, and to really have just a practice to stick to.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more about your routine. I realize it's personal and I want to respect your privacy, but I think for people to have an idea of what Nadja's routine is on a daily basis, just anything you're willing to share would be of service, I think, if you're willing. Yeah.
Oh yes, I'm very open to share it. I mean, I love my routine, otherwise I wouldn't do it. So in the morning, usually when I get up, I first start with my Shambhavi. It's it's a routine I learned. It's a Kriya breathing technique. Lasts it's like half an hour. It takes half an hour to do it. It's a certain breathing technique you do, and usually I do yoga in the morning if possible. So after that, I do a yoga practice, and well, in the evening I have certain types of routines, whatever I'm learning, like hypnosis or my own meditation music, or whatever I'm learning at that particular time. I do it for like 30 days or longer. It depends what it is. And like 2 years ago, I also started doing the Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations. So they are quite long, like 1 hour to 80 minutes, but yeah, I'm so used to it now. So I'm quite busy with all my routines and meditations. And I also love to do it together with friends. So sometimes we meet, but now it's not possible to meet, but we meet on Zoom or whatever, and we listen to a particular meditation together so we can share our experiences, and it's really fun. It's not that dry as it might sound like.
Very powerful. I love your sharing the high priority that you put on your quiet time, your spiritual disciplines, your meditation. I think for a lot of people that aren't used to a regular practice, it can be shocking to think that you would spend this much time. And I find when I share with people, I generally get up in the morning and have about 2 hours to myself. I get up early to make that happen, but it's really essential to me, and I'm really grateful for that practice. It's actually been enhanced, ironically, during COVID for me, because there's no distractions. I get up and it's just every day, and I realize everybody has to find their own rhythm. But I really, really support the inspiration that you're providing, Nadja, for others to find what rhythm works for them in terms of early morning. I want to share with you an experience I have and compare it with, and ask you to compare it with your own. Some years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, I started meditating in the 1980s. That's when I started meditating. And because I'm a musician as well, a drummer, as you know, music has always been an essential part. I put a resource in the chat section. I read a book by Peter Michael Hamel. He will be one of your fellow Germans. And it was called Through Music to the Self. And he was the one that talked about, that was the first book I read, coupling meditation and music together. And ironically, he was referencing a lot of your fellow Berliners, Tangerine Dream and Klaus Schulze, and some of these people. I know that you're familiar with them, but that was the beginnings for me. But as I began to meditate, and for me also, like you, coupled it with music, I began to discover that if I could start the day on my own terms, that is, to find a peaceful center out of which to move into the day, it was so much better than waiting till the last minute, jumping out of bed, grabbing a cup of coffee, rushing into the day. And I had to practice that over and over again, that comparison between starting the day with my own kind of foundation versus letting the day start me with its foundation, before I realized this is something I really need to, I need to be faithful to it. And since over these years, I've much more often than not done this. It requires discipline, because especially with the arrival of the internet and so on, it's so tempting to go online and read emails or even read the news or whatever. And I cannot do that. Once I go down that rabbit hole, it's done. I'd love to hear your own reflections on this, how you do this for yourself. Because for a lot of people, they say, and I understand it, because I used to say this, they'd say, I don't have time for what Nadja's talking about. I don't have time for what Bob's talking about. And it took me a long time to learn that I don't have time not to do it. You know?
That's a good one.
Yes. Yeah. I love your thoughts. Yeah.
Speaking of, I don't have time. I mean, this question also occurred when I learned the inner engineering from Sadhguru, and what his answer was, let's not think how you cannot do it. Let's think how you can do it instead.
Beautiful.
So if something is important to you, and if something gives you joy or pleasure, you will make it happen. So you have to maybe look from this angle to meditation. I'm certainly not a person who grew up meditating, and all that stuff was very, very foreign to me, and had nothing to do with me. I mean, I was like a crazy person.
Me too.
always loved to space out on drugs and going into clubs and just do everything to kill myself, basically. So
you and me both.
It came about slowly, I would say. It was a development, and I had to find something else. I mean, I knew this very, very early, that I have to find something else that is really cool and really gives me power back and pleasure, and it's fun to do and to overcome myself, the person I used to be. And it gradually pushed me in this direction, or it was a push, it was a pull. I mean, it was.
Beautiful. Yeah, I get the difference. Yeah. You
Some
remind me as
told me, yeah, let's meditate for 2 hours or so. I would have said, no way. I mean, are you crazy?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You remind me as I'm listening to you, a couple of things come to mind as I listen to you, Nadja. First of all, thank you for sharing your journey, and and I want anybody who's listening to know that I feel fully joined with you. In fact, what I was thinking of as you were speaking was that I think the hunger that I had, the pull that I was responding to, it grew increasingly connected to, it started with alcohol for me and then other drugs, is that I kept following that. And it reminds me of Carl Jung, who said that he looked at addictive behaviors as a thirst for wholeness, that I wanted to be whole. And that was my best attempt. But it like you said, it will kill us. You and I were both killing ourselves. I can speak for myself that I was killing myself. And so we have this saying in English, and I bet you have a saying auf Deutsch, is that you cannot replace something with nothing. You have to replace something with something. In fact, we have another saying that you have to fight fire with a greater fire. You fight fire with a greater fire. The greater fire was what we're talking about, which is spiritual seeking and spiritual finding. And I just did what I did. I really valued, like you did, altered states of consciousness. My doctoral dissertation, right here.
Oh wow!
This dissertation was on altered states of consciousness. That's what I studied. So I was very, very interested in it.
Me too.
And it was the beginnings, and that's 35 years ago. It was the beginnings of beginning to realize there must be a different route than what I'd experienced with friends and family, which is that you use drugs of various kinds until you die early. And I'm so grateful for what we're talking about. I also love, Nadja, as I listen to you, you radiate the pleasure, the fun that comes from what you're talking about. I know that we both do. And it's, I'm so grateful for that. My biggest worry about letting go of my addictive behaviors would be, will I end up just being sober? I don't know how this translates into English. I mean, into German, but the word sober in English connotes being very serious. I'm very sober-minded. And there was nothing about that I wanted. And I understand that sobriety, the way that most people use it in recovery, has to do with finding freedom from addiction to substances or sometimes other behaviors. But if I was going to find sobriety of that kind, I needed to be able to enjoy life, feel pleasure, feel ecstasy in other forms. And we're talking about the way that I've been able to find that. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. I could not stop doing what I was doing with addictive behaviors if it meant just being serious and having no fun. There'd be no way that I would have been able to.
No way. How our brains are wired, no chance at all. There must be fun involved, and then you have to do it. I mean,
yeah. I love how Eckhart Tolle describes joy. He defines joy as vibrantly alive peace. The idea that you can have peace inside and then it can vibrate in this ecstatic, joyful way. That's what I want. I want joy.
That's very nice, and it resonates with me. Yeah. And I just thought when you said it that the peace part was missing while I was on drugs in this whole
me too.
construct.
Yeah.
That was the missing piece, so to say. The missing piece.
Yeah. I wonder how this goes for you with music. I know that you DJ, and I certainly have been to plenty of performances in the past with Fatboy Slim and Paul Oakenfold and Sasha and Digweed and all of these. And sad to say, was higher than a kite. I mean, it was a very powerful experience. And yet I can remember an experience that I opened into then that I now have when I drum, which is that down underneath all of the noise and all of the beats and all of the sounds would be this kind of steady hum this peacefulness underneath all of that. And I wanted that, and I wanted to see, is there a way for me to find that without being high, without being literally on chemicals to make that happen?
Mhm.
And I'm about 10 years down the road with this practice, but I can tell you now, when I play drums, I play jazz is what I play for drums, but I have a great love for EDM, for electronic dance music. I really do. And in either case, there's a way that there's all this drumming going on, or all of these beats and all of this music intersecting lines and so on. But underneath that will be almost like, sometimes I say, I tell people, if you could be inside of me when I'm drumming very actively, all four limbs playing independently, what you would hear would be something like this. Like that. That's peace.
Yeah. Oh, that is so nice. Yeah. That's what we are all looking for. I think. Yeah. To have this inner.
I wonder if you might comment on something, Nadja, is that we're talking about peace, and that we value that, and that we value it when it's vibrating, like Eckhart Tolle says, when it's vibrating and joyfully alive. But I wonder how it's gone for you, or how it goes for you in your musical meditative practice, in terms of when you get thrown out of peace by, let's say, life circumstances. Right now, it's a fairly universal phenomenon across the planet that people are having a hard time finding peace. It's a scary time. It's a sad time. It's a difficult time. How does your meditation practice / musical immersion, how does that help you re-anchor yourself in more of a peaceful state, let's say when you're thrown out of peace, how to find your way back to it? Any thoughts about that?
Oh, I just know that I really have to do my practice, especially in times when it's difficult, and also I practice it during times when it's easy, because then you have it ready for when it gets really hard to do it. So when there are hard times and I'm thrown out of balance and kind of contracted and down and in panic mode, I managed to center myself very quickly because of all the practice I've been doing, and I'm so grateful for this. Yeah. And I focused on music, and I pulled myself back into the now. From now to now, and I really stayed focused on what is now. Now you are healthy. Now you are safe, and I really tried to get my nervous system back to a functioning state. And music and especially my meditation music, or also my project 𝗧𝗪 with my good friend Helmut together, really helps me tremendously during times like this. So when the first lockdown hit the world, we of course we were in panic mode, and there were a lot of questions and insecurity, but then we focused and we started making an album, and it's a very beautiful 𝗧𝗪 album. I really appreciate and love what we did there. And so this just gives me back my flow and my spirit and focus. And it must be very hard. At least that's what I think. If you don't have anything to hold on to.
Yes. Was bedeutet Klartraum auf Englisch? Bitte?
Lucid dream.
Thank you. And I love what you're saying of being able to find lucidity or clarity, klar, to find clarity amidst life, especially when it's challenging. Really appreciate, I just love being with you, Nadja. I really appreciate you're talking about rooting yourself in a practice when things are going relatively well or easily, so that we have that to access when things are more challenging, when it's more difficult, so that we can find clarity amidst all of this. I live near the ocean here. The Pacific Ocean is just a mile down the road, and I have this image oftentimes. I'm very grateful for that. Is, you know, there'll be the waves coming in, and you know this in your own experience, the waves coming in, they crash against the shore here. We live at, it's called Crystal Cove. It's just this beautiful cove, and I go swimming out there, and the waves are very powerful. But if you go deep enough, you can get underneath that, and it's calm. It's 𝗧𝗏𝗏. It's calm down there. It's calm down there, and that image comes to me oftentimes when life feels like it's like a series of roiling waves. Can I drop to a place that's underneath the waves and find sustenance? Can I find peace there? And I think you're talking about that right now. So to practice that when things are going relatively smoothly, so that I might be accessed by it when they're not so smooth.
Yeah, it's easier. I see it like training, like working out as well. I mean, you just do it no matter what. And when you want to run a marathon, you're trained already. I mean, you don't start training in the marathon, you train before. I mean,
I want to suggest this to anybody who's watching us, especially those that aren't familiar with Nadja's music. I've written down 𝗧𝗏𝗏 down here so that they might seek you out online. They have your name. Also, I put down 𝗓𝗏𝗃 Technologies so that people might be able to track you down. You've got any number of meditation tracks. They're my favorites of all at 𝗓𝗏𝗃 are yours. I listen exclusively to yours. Don't tell anybody else, but yours go right into a place for me that is very, very peaceful to me. So I recommend this to anybody to check out 𝗓𝗏𝗃 Technologies and look up Nadja there. Do you have another site that I might send people to? Because I want to get the word out. 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 is what I've written down. How might people find you online most easily?
It's NadjaLind.com, and there you will find a link to my Bandcamp page with my ambient music. I just released a new of my Turning In series, a new bundle of tracks, including solfeggio frequencies. Those are healing frequencies for certain things you want to clear, and also different types of brainwave, binaural brainwave entrainment from delta to theta to alpha. So you can choose. You can choose which mood you are in, and then you can just choose from the menu. That's how
I'm going to go right after we speak today. I'll tell the audience who may not be aware of this. One of the beautiful things about Bandcamp, which I patronize as often as I can, is that you can download the music in high definition. It would be FLAC files, or ALAC files, or sometimes WAV files. And the fact is your music. I don't. All of your music I've kept in high definition. So yeah. You taught me that. You taught me that when we first met. And the difference between that, I don't think that people recognize that MP3s, as useful as they are for mobility, they introduce a lot of artifacts into the music, number one. And number two is they reduce a lot of the musical spectrum. I mean, you just get very limited. As a drummer, I can tell you when I listen to an MP3 file, the cymbals they're compressed down to almost nothing. And I want the whole spectrum, and your music especially. And so Bandcamp it's wonderful to know that in addition to, I also have your music on Tidal for you to know. Your music is on Tidal, and it's also high definition. I really appreciate being able to listen to that. Nothing against MP3s, but if you really want the full experience, please go to Bandcamp. And I've listed down here NadjaLind.com for them to know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's much better, much healthier for the ears.
I'll never forget the experience that you and I had when we met in Utah and went to the recording studio out there, and I can't remember his name, but he's the one that has. Yes. And he introduced us. He was able to take out the music and just leave what's left behind with MP3, and it's something like this, like that. I came home from that trip. This is a summer and a half ago. I came home from that and immediately began to replace all of my music with high definition alternatives.
It was quite impressive to listen and to see that.
I also remember very well from our trip together there. We met up with our friend John and Pam 𝗵𝗵 who are the owners of iAwake. It was wonderful to meet you there, Nadja. I can remember one day that we were putting on, I think it was one of your tracks, and you had on the headphones and it wasn't working. There was either a problem with the headphones and or the fidelity. It could have been that it was a reduction or whatever. I can remember the detailed attention you gave. You said, this isn't working. There's a glitch somewhere. Oh, I think it was because, yeah, I think it had been recorded. You had ears to hear that. And while I might not hear that, I think my soul registers that. I never forgot that. I thought this is deep listening. This is deep listening.
It's funny, but then I went through all the headphones in the meditation room, and I told Pam, this one isn't working properly on the left side, and this one is missing this and that. I have to get rid of
That's exactly right. Well, you've left a lasting impression in many ways for me, not the least of which is that I've really shifted towards listening to music with higher definition, and I can't go back now. It's like my eyes or my ears have been opened. Nadja, I have to scoot right now. I want to thank you, and I'm hoping that we'll be back maybe in a month to meet again. I just feel like it's such a resource, all that you bring, not the least of which is your beautifully soulful energy. All the resources that you bring. I really encourage anybody who's been here today to definitely track you down. I'm going to track you down on Bandcamp today. Really happy to hear. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining us, Nadja. Much love to you and blessings to you. Okay. Please stay safe and be well, and we'll speak again soon, okay?
Okay.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.